capabilities you have from the backend to the front end. So the only thing that happens, what's the difference between the front and backend? Sorry, with the rich text and the plain text one, is that the plain text one caches it. So what could happen is, let's say you're on a merge request, which has a specific state, that some of the actions are not possible anymore. And with the plain text one, because it's cached, it can happen, like you fetch all the slash commands that will work, that some of them won't work anymore the moment you hit save, because in the meantime something happened. The rich text one solves that by not caching it. But
Okay.
that's one of the links I mentioned in that indeed lengthy text. AI helped me through understanding what actually is the difference between the two. But in the end, it's basically a trade-off. Do we want to cache it and eventually, possibly once in every 1,000 saves hit an issue, or have all the requests? It's basically one of those two. That's why I also asked it to the two people who basically made the last changes to that specific code.
Okay.
What's the reasoning? Like, if they still know why it was toggled to not cacheable or not, because that's basically the first thing we need to understand. But the change is trivial. It's basically flipping a false to a true, and,
So,
and that's it.
so fill everyone in, you possibly need to fill me in on something as well. But I just pinged Matthias a message before we joined this to say, oh, should we solve this using AI during the call, and we can like record it and use it for like. But it seems like I think you'd already solved it by the sounds of it. I hadn't looked at the issue. I didn't realize that the issue was kind of the solution as well. But I guess that answers my question that this isn't a very good.
No, not really, not really. No, but
Well,
it's
I think using AI to put in a debounce as well would not be a bad idea. So,
I agree. Both of them are two different issues, I think, and you're right. Indeed, it doesn't make sense, even if it's. Let's say that the decision is made, or it still makes sense to not cache it. Then the debone still makes sense to just not hammer a server without, like, while you're typing. That's true.
Matis, I take it you pinged the people who have modified that file on Slack.
No, in the issue itself, I pinged them there.
I can't see it.
But in the question section.
Oh, read more, read more. Okay.
Yeah,
The
because
read more.
I explained why it happened, because it's just not clear. If you look at it, you don't understand why that cache is basically flipped, and why the caching actually matters and how it works. So that's why I explained, because otherwise
Awesome.
I just couldn't
Awesome.
see it from the code itself where it happened. So that's why I added the whole.
Perfect. Cool.
also, I think we're going to hit 600,000 issues today.
Oh, this could be appropriate.
Oh wow!
No, actually, it's a bit harder than anticipated. I don't know exactly what number we're on to. There's a team member that's looking at introducing some new GitLab achievements, and I can't remember what the clever terminology is, but they're to do with like mathematical, like I don't know, whatever. So you get like an achievement if you created issue like 6666666, or
Yeah.
if you created issue 123321, or like I'm gonna call them palindromes and those kind of
You could also go like binary if the number is like the number you wrote.
primes. They were gonna do primes, I
Prime.
think. um Anyway, okay, so we'll wait for some feedback from the relevant team on that, right,
Yeah.
before sort of making a decision. And then yeah, we could potentially use AI to help us. I don't think we need AI to make the cache change by the sounds of it, although I'm sort of, like I say, I was a bit late to the party. But yeah, maybe the debounce might be a bit more complex and adding specs, etc.
Or at least like show how the process can work and what's needed from an agentic approach to solve a small issue and then evolve from there to more complex ones. Because in the end,
Yeah,
you still need the basic.
true.
Yeah, for flipping a true to a false makes no real sense, but
Yeah, but in order, like, I would like to see how it does in terms of if we say I would like to contribute to this, will it say
yeah,
like you need the GDK and like walk you through that sort of stuff? That's what I'm kind of interested in.
yeah, and that's actually a good idea on like if you would ask any agentic system right now, like I want to contribute to GitLab, what do I need? I want to work on this issue, so to say, because we are basically already somehow biased because we know a lot and we already fed a lot of information to our approach, being in the system prompt or in our project specific prompts. But in the end, that information is needed to be able to succeed, so to say. So yeah, it's our value.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder, like, I'm always an advocate of that we should treat like wider community members as similarly to team members as possible. But it does still leave me with a question in my mind, like, is there anything that we need? I think the answer is yes, that we do need to differentiate in some way, shapes, or forms, because for a team member, we wouldn't have to mention the community forks, etc.
Mhm.
And should we do we need to put what I think would be quite nice, and I don't know exactly the right way, but in the contributors platform recently we've introduced agents.md, a Claude.md, and all they really do is say, read the README because there's loads of useful information in there, and read the custom MR review instructions. Now, what I'm kind of wondering is whether we should have a central file somewhere that for any GitLab community contribution sort of explains the community forks and does other bits and pieces. And then could we in every sort of repo, every GitLab repo, eventually it'd be great when they bring in what we're going to call them. So at the moment you can only put custom instructions in, although this is only for code reviews, which
Yeah, but
doesn't really help.
what you basically are hinting to, I think, is basically some a skill, like the contribution skill, the GitLab contribution skill, because that could be the framework, so to say, that can do multiple things, explain to you how community forks works, and somebody who doesn't need it, like a team member, will not use that skill. Somebody else will use a skill and can benefit from specific instructions.
Awesome. So, a couple of questions around that. So, well, maybe some are questions and some are facts or points or whatever. So, number one, to the best of my knowledge, we don't support skills in like Duo chat at the moment.
Mhm.
As far as you're concerned, that's correct, or
That's a good question. I'm not.
so
I
because
haven't.
my what I'm basically thinking is I think skills are really great shout. And I hope you can maybe already bring me a bit more up to speed. But like from what I understand, skills definitely exist. Open code and Claude code, I think, are
Yep.
two of the biggest, like the ones that I'm most interested in. Um,
But that's the
now,
thing. That's a cool thing. They become portable once you make them. You have support for those in multiple ecosystems. The same rules apply. You only need a harness or an ecosystem that basically can
perfect.
will exist and can call them. Load
But
that.
to me,
Yeah.
you've already got to have like got a certain I don't know how to explain it, but you're already halfway there if you've got the skill, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I suppose I think in a lot of ecosystems the skills are maybe discoverable.
Yeah, and that's
So
basically, and that's you're exactly on where what we should start with is basically, and maybe the Jim and Elston and yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Can elaborate on that because that's basically what we need to understand. What ecosystems are people using, contributors using, so we can at least have like some sort of README of this is how to get started. Why we will never be able to solve it like in the most generic way. If you look at any system, it's there. There is like these and these steps are needed for these ecosystems. Some are bundled because they start from the same origin system. For example, all the ones that started from open code or the successors from open or the predecessors of open code, and that's fine as long as the instructions are clear how to get started. And that's where we need to start. So anyone that wants to contribute and use a specific AI system or harness basically can. And the instructions can be loaded in without a big effort because then you're started and indeed then you're already one step in, but we need to start from the beginning of the process, like figure
And the
out.
beginning of the process is often, yes, you can't even make that assumption. I was going to say the beginning of the process is often within the GitLab UI itself, but
Oh,
actually,
it isn't.
I quite regularly ask open code. I give it an issue URL and I ask it to help me with that issue. Um,
Indeed, and
so,
that's exactly how, like, let's indeed take that specific sentence. I just run into this issue and I want to work on it. That specific sentence will, anyone that uses AI will approach it differently. Some of them will just give it to Claude Code, so to say, and it
mhm.
needs to figure out something. Others will use GitLab Duo and so on. So that's where the difference will start. But in the end, we should find a way to lead to that common instruction set being a skill or whatever fits best. But that's basically what we need to do.
It's such a I don't know if inception is the right word, but like I'm starting to picture something in my head, which is basically every repo has a claude.md,
Yes,
has a an agents.md, and a README. All of these files point to another file which contains like contribution
that's
notes or something, and or points to a skill maybe, and the skill. But again, it's like, well, is that a generic skill or is there a separate skill for each repo? Or like, some of the stuff shared, like the community forks, are quite a standard approach, and our review process is fairly standardized, etc. But you know,
Yeah, and I think you're right, and I'm just gonna it's just shared an XKCD. You probably know which one it is. It's the one with of the about the standards. That's basically what's currently happening in the world. Everybody is like inventing something, and that's fine. And
yeah.
I know there is like some open agent standard that's being discussed, so to say, or developed, or people are interested in. And but until then, I think you're correct. And you want to support those ecosystems and tools, but you need to ensure that our instructions are basically only copied once. And you basically have two types of, or at least two types of instructions. You have the ones that are generic, how to contribute to one of the GitLab projects, and project-specific ones, how to do it in this specific project. And that's indeed the challenge, to find the correct balance there, to not repeat yourself and to have to maintain the same set of instructions across multiple projects. But in the end, you will have project-specific instructions. So
So I see that agent skills are a thing in Duo. I'm just
yeah,
trying to read about. So it says they can be used with GitLab Duo chat in your local environment. To you, do you interpret that as meaning not within the web, only within the
that's
IDE?
how I read it, because that's also like um, how when I was on the hackathon with Odyssey School, also what I discovered there, that there's a big distinction between web ID, or the ID in the web application, and the one on your local ID. So yes, I can assume or I
But
can imagine
also,
it's.
I'm not just talking about excluding the web ID. I'm more specifically talking about excluding the the standard chat on the right hand
Yeah,
side,
yeah,
basically. You know what I
yeah. I
mean?
think,
Just when you're
yeah,
on an issue, you're on an MR, you're on whatever.
yeah, because I think if you look at yes, if you one of the sentence there the important one. User level skills are only available for use with the GitLab Dual CLI, which means that it's will not be possible like with the sidebar chat, because that's not how it's used in there. So
Yeah, although I interpret that as talking about user level skills. So if you've got a repo with a
yeah,
skill in it, I think that that would be available elsewhere. But if you've got a skill that you use yourself, like I don't know, let's say it's Matthias's super magic skill that you
that you
use
can't use it.
across all
Yeah,
your yeah. The one
but
you don't want to share.
well, I think what we could do is basically create a dummy project, so to say, or even the contributor platform, and try it out. Like make a merge request that somebody can test out and see what happens. And maybe Jim or others can chime in and then try it out and see for their environment what instructions do we need, because it's very easy to basically make it work for a specific ecosystem or harness, because it mainly means adding a specific file and pointing to the correct place. But that could be a good starting point to figure that one out. Yes.
So what I'm thinking, first of all, let me just share my screen for a second. So what I was hoping to do, right, this one's closed, so it's probably a bad idea. Let's take the one that you shared earlier, even though the solution's already on it. I just want to ask it. I just want to try it, see how good or bad a job it does today within here. And I might try within open code as well, although I think I sort of know. And also my open code knows so much about me that it's definitely not going to treat me as a new contributor, if that
No,
makes sense.
that's exactly what I mean. So we need to have like some sort of starting set of instructions, starting clean setup to have that in place indeed. Yeah, it does the same thing.
So
It's flip. Yeah.
it's already upsets me because it's saying to fork the repo
Yeah, but
yourself.
that's really cool. And let's make issues for these that we can at least guide Duo and basically figure out where that is, because that's part of the solution to ensure that we guide them in the correct way. Yeah.
So, like you said, if we spin up, so let's look at contributors. Now, it's only going to read it from the master, isn't it? Or the main or the default, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So let's create a new project.
Yeah, let's just try it, and let's discover what is already possible on the web chat, like what's open on the right side, in your local IDE, in a flow, because that's also a different part. So that's yeah.
So if we open this, ask it the same question asked before. Well, not quite. I'd expect a similar sort of answer where it sort of says about forking it, and unless again it's clever enough to say, oh well, you're a project maintainer or owner, so you don't need to. But okay, so it's saying assign yourself. So it hasn't considered. Again, maybe I should open another browser logged in as another. Let me just see if that makes any difference. I'll share that one as well. You can't see my other browser yet. I'm just going to sign in and then I should be able to share that one. Got too many GitLab accounts.
It's always also a struggle for me, because not on this machine I only have the work one, but on my other I have my personal and another personal, so it's
yeah.
it's
I've created a couple of test accounts recently. I'm just going to try logging in with one of those. But okay, right. Let's reshare. think this is the right one. So I'm logged in as a different user here. Okay, so I haven't got access to Duo at the moment. So let's give myself lead ticket PD. Okay, so that's the first thing. If they haven't onboarded yet as a contributor, they haven't got a Duo license, so they're definitely not going to start here. They're going to start in their editor of choice or
Yeah.
IDE or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that
Yeah.
sort of informs part of our decision. I'm just going to scribble that down somewhere. So contribution journey. So until they've started or onboarded, yeah, no Duo access. So they're forced to start in Claude Code, Open Code, etc. Okay, but if I was, but that even makes me wonder, like, how much time do we spend, like, because we know that they can't get on here until they've on board, like, we should almost not focus on this and focus on that.
Yeah, correct. I think so too, because the end result is that what we want to achieve is that whatever AI system you're using that exists today or tomorrow is able to discover the instructions on how to contribute to GitLab and make the life of contributors easier to start with. That's basically what we want to achieve. So I would indeed not only focus on what's possible in the monolith itself or on GitLab.com, because that's one of the
Yeah.
sets.
Yeah. So again, I worry that maybe I need to create a new profile or something somehow, somewhere, so it doesn't know so much about me.
Yeah, that will be tricky. Yeah, but that's basically the question you're asking right now is basically it's valid, as that's basically how somebody would approach it, and they most likely, if they used to working with Git projects, what I mean is a project that comes from a repository, they were already going to start like forking it and so on and so on, and they will hit the issue only later on, which is what we need to
Perfect.
ensure. Yeah, voilà.
So
Yeah.
So should we? Yeah. So what's your gut? Is it like, if we put a skill in there,
No,
or
no.
is it the README? Is that the?
Well, the whole point is, if you look at what it has, it didn't even try to check, so to say, if there was any instructions on how to contribute, which makes sense because at this point you're basically starting from nothing and asking, I want to do something in that ecosystem. So it will be difficult. It will be difficult without having some starting set of instructions on explaining to people, please add this skill or use this skill on your
Well,
local.
yeah, but what I'm getting at is that I think Open Code and Claude Code are clever enough that they've at least tried to list the files, right? So if the readme.md had
Yeah,
any notes in it, or if we had a contributing.md, or if there were any
yeah, but
skills in there, I think it would
yes,
have.
yes, and that's the cool thing that we can try out indeed. Because we have the blank project, so we can just add some claude.md, some whatever other system.md, the skills in it, and just see with those systems and try it, so to say,
I
5 to 10
mean,
times.
should I ask it and say,
Yeah.
as a maintainer of that project, what would be the best way to provide instructions so you, Open Code, know how to guide a new contributor
Yeah.
when
That's
asking a. Yeah, that
yeah,
seemed.
yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
That's also how I would approach it. Like, use the ecosystem that you have or the harness to
Yeah,
explain
I
how
mean,
it.
we could, like you say, we could definitely start with the README MD, with the contributing.md, etc., etc. But okay, so agents.md it's suggesting.
But I would now ask the same question again. Like, that's correct. You will read the agents.md if you open code inside that project. But here we're outside of the project. We just ask, I want to contribute. to that
I
specific.
still think that it's going to have been clever enough. So let's should we say that? So even without the
Owning the
project
repo first, yeah, without cloning.
owned repo local, would you still have grabbed the remote
Yeah,
agents.md if one existed?
yeah, indeed, because otherwise it's yeah, it will not bring any.
Yeah, so I think it's suggesting it would. So again, should we do
Yeah,
that then? Yeah, try
yeah,
that.
because we can
So
we can even say like a very simple instruction guide them currently to contributors.gitlab.com. That the instruction is that because that's one sentence without having the full explanation there. And then if the agent responds with yes, let's go check. You better check.
yeah.
That's a
Cool.
simple
Okay.
because then we know that
Um,
we have a good starting point to iterate over it until it becomes.
Perfect. Okay. So again, forgive me because you can't see my browser as well, but I'm just quickly gonna do that in a browser. So I'm gonna create agents.md, and I'm gonna say guide all contributors to start onboarding. Contributors.gitlab.com/start and add agents.md. Okay, so it exists. So copy that. Hope my memory isn't being used in any way, shape, or form.
Normally not. No, normally not. No, that's not how.
My Jeeves is supposed to, but we'll see.
Okay, but maybe less
Probably
than.
for this sort of task, I wouldn't expect it to. I don't mean. It's found
God, read it.
agents.md, which is
Read it.
promising.
Yes, it does it. So it's a
Awesome.
specific file. So of course, what we have there is not full instructions, but it's really cool. And so the next cool thing would be that you also, for example, ask or check the surroundings. For example, check if GLab command is available. Why? Because then we can do interesting, or your agent can be smart enough.
Do you know what? That's a good point. If I didn't have, the GitLab MCP server and
It will
we
work. It
really
will work.
do need a. Sorry,
It will
go
work.
on.
Yeah, it will work because it will be able to do the web fetches. It will just web fetch it. If it's a public project, it will be able to get the same files because in the end it will just. But this, yes, we need to start with nothing. That's yeah.
We're still doing well for time. What I'm going to do, I don't know how terrible an idea this is at this moment in time, but I have a Windows VM in front of me. So
Yeah,
I
that's the best way.
could,
Yeah.
yeah, I could open the brand fresh window open code install on there.
What you also could
Um,
do is just start a Docker container with open code. You don't need a VM for that because then there is nothing there. Because you will need to authenticate anyhow with GitLab Duo for having access
does the
to.
callback, does the OAuth callback work all right? I think it should. Because when the
Well,
port VS Code should share the port and
I have no issues with that, as in, but I
okay,
use
I'll give
the
that a try. It's a good idea.
because then you don't need a VM, you just need your local.
Yeah, I mean I've already got the VM
Okay.
here and running, but I think no, let me use the VM just because again I've got to remind myself like which flavor of Linux or whatever do I put in the Docker
The cool thing is,
container and
the cool thing is, if we once we have that system set up, we easily can like even create a CI pipeline, which tests
true.
if whatever approach that we have, basically
Yeah.
we can do really cool stuff then the moment we have some basic instructions there to basically ensure that it stays correct. So
Yeah, okay, it's gonna take a little bit longer, but I like it. The question is, like I say, so again, sharing lots of different things at the moment. So I'm not very good with Docker. So again, let's open code. How can I spin up a Docker container?
let's make it an Ubuntu or a Debian for ease of use, otherwise it may spin up some
Well, I'm thinking I want it to be because literally this is only for asking questions. I don't really want it to already have like Ruby or Node or
yeah, that's
like
why just a plain Debian or plain Ubuntu. Not I
yeah,
would
yeah,
recommend
okay.
fine because I don't it will yeah. But I can give you the command if you want.
Prep it for sure.
Not like this.
Yeah, so it's just the same image as you.
That's basically all in one step, and it's what it does. It keeps a workspace directory for any file that you would have that we want to save on disk. Of course, your open code config will not be there, but yeah, it's basically
That's
the same.
exactly what we want, right?
And of course, indeed, it doesn't share the open code config exactly. Indeed, otherwise we will have the same thing again. Yeah.
Let's give it a try.
And then of course you will need to authenticate it. You can do that
Yes.
with GitLab underscore token environment variable, but then just ensure that it's not in the screen, and then we're good to go, and you should be able to use it. Yeah.
Awesome. Don't you love a rabbit hole?
This is basically, simply said, has been my life for the last, I don't know how many years.
Yes,
Right? I've been in this
absolutely.
spot.
I'm not certain, but I think whose rabbit holes are more fun, his or mine?
The cool yours are like how did you even land there? That's the cool ones. Like at some point you hit an issue and you just don't know anymore why or where where does it come from. That's the cool ones. Yeah. Or at least let me say it differently. The rabbit holes that you and at the end both see the beginning and the end. Those are cool because then you found the solution. So yeah.
So even this, would it be interesting to use this, whatever this free? Because
Yes, why not?
yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Yes, valid
So
question.
just
Yeah.
be careful because they do use that to train on. So
Yeah, but for the
Okay.
questions we will ask, it will be fine. But indeed, it makes sense to try it because
Yeah,
that
so
could be
it's
the first starting point
like
of
completely vanilla install.
this is complete. Yeah, it cannot be more vanilla. Yeah.
How does it deal with? So
And so you
like
see,
you were correct, Matthias. Web
yeah,
fetch is the first thing it's done.
yeah. So it's
Does
gonna.
it get the repo and the files around it though?
I know it's very. Yes, it's going to the README. Does it gonna fetch the agents.md? It's gonna fetch it. Yes, cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So normally, no, if we see the instruction of routing it through the contributor platform, we're good.
So the
No.
the next question, and you know, I'm very open to go whatever path you want with this, but like my next immediate thing is like we don't want them to clone the repo directly, right? We want them to use a community fork,
Yeah.
or request one if one doesn't exist, I guess. Now, here's the million-dollar question: Does that guidance should be the same for all GitLab projects? So do we put that in the agents MD or do we like do we have something somewhere, whether it's contributor platform, whether it's somewhere else that has all these generic instructions?
That's a very good question. And I think it basically the responsibility is twofold. in my opinion. The responsibility, on one hand, we as our team needs to ensure that the guidance is in general correct, so we can have a central file for that. But on the other hand, there is also a responsibility with the owners of specific projects within the GitLab ecosystem to ensure they keep those instructions. And so we always will have two places where something is there. The correct.
I agree. Like, we know we're going to have specific contribution guidelines, for projects, but the I
I
think the
will.
starting point, the breadcrumb needs to be in agents.md or
Yeah,
readme.md. I think either of those seem to be go-tos that all like maybe even readme.md is the best one to have
yeah,
like a one-liner because
yeah,
if open code pulls agents.md but Claude code doesn't or whatever, um I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. We will need to try that out. Simply said, on
What,
what's
what
the
I
correct.
would what I would almost recommend is you guys have a CI job that copies from a central area into kind of like how Dependabot or not Dependabot
Yeah,
Renovate does their updates. Have it copy it into that specific repo. So, for example, you have a second repo called agents.md or whatever. It goes and creates a CI job that copies its I don't want to say config, but it's agents file to GitLab, but also to GitLab Runner and to all these other places. The reason for that is not only does it allow people to then edit in their secondary things in a semi regular way, but also it saves a ton of tokens because now you're not having to parse all of that other stuff.
yeah.
And I know tokens are cheap, but they're not always going to be cheap. So I
No,
know
you're
a lot
correct.
of places are bringing back junior engineers now because they found junior engineers are cheaper than a token.
Yeah, it's really
So
that. Yeah.
what would low like so okay, we've got every repo. If every
Yeah.
repo says like that, that's why I'm thinking pointing into like definitely have repo specific instructions in every repo. That's fine, no brainer, whatever. But if if every repo just has something that points to a single URL, so I think somewhere on the contributor platform makes sense to me
Well,
and that all
that's
the guidance is there, we wouldn't need that kind of CI dependabody type approach, right, Jim?
well, but then you have a dependency on fetching something from the web.
But I'd
Because
much rather have the dependency in that direction, if that makes sense, rather than have to maintain like Renovate is I look after the Renovate automation for GitLab and all the projects and stuff. I'm a maintainer on that, and it's an absolute headache, nightmare, whatever you want to call it. I think having I don't even know how to describe. I don't know if it's the directionality or what you want to call it, but for all projects, always to have be pointing to the latest version rather than to have manual or not manual effort, even if you call it automation, even if CI is kind of copying changes from a central location down, you still probably want to approve and merge and stuff like that. So to me, that kind of one-liner that just says, look at this file
what we
in
can do.
this.
So, sorry to interrupt.
No,
What
go
we can
on.
do is look at the practices from how other projects solved it, because we're not the first one having central instructions that we want many agents to take into account before starting to work on something.
Whilst I both agree and disagree to that. I think we are probably one of the first because I don't think there are many people in a similar sort of
With,
scenario where
with,
they
with-
maintain lots of, yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
We're GitLab the company, we've got hundreds of repos and projects, etc. I don't think many people are in that situation. However, I love the idea of asking AI like what's the best way to solve. And
Well,
again, then
not
I'm
directly
sort of
as we,
like,
but like browsing some of the other ecosystems or checking what basically the common. Let me also check something else. Um,
So I'm trying not to lead it too much in this question. I haven't said, would it be a good idea to share a file somewhere and point to that file?
Yes,
Oh,
of
look at this. CI based is its recommended approach, Jim. You could be getting some brownie points here. So
Maybe I'm just an AI bot.
I've been accused of
keeps
that
typing.
many times before they were cool as well. So one repo, contribution guidelines for your canonical, blah blah blah,
The
and then your
other
project. Go on.
the other alternative that I could see as well is have a Git repo that just clones into and runs a script that copies the configuration into your open code almost. That's the only
But
other
that's
option
quite
I
requires quite a lot of heavy lifting. Like
Yeah,
the
yes.
contributor needs to know about that, right, and know how to consume that.
and that's why I would avoid doing that because then how do you like I have my own configuration for my open code and everything. How does that play nicely with your guys' stuff?
Yeah, indeed, indeed. That's why I think it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
So it is. I find it really interesting, like why it's prefer. I'm going to read the rest of them quickly anyway. Templates, submodule or trees, a really interesting approach. Um,
But
How
I
many
think
actual active projects does GitLab have, like repos? Because I know there's a lot of repos that should have been archived a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean there are, but even if I was just to take like, even if I just said 10 and like, the monolith, the contributor platform, the CLI, the knowledge graph, the runner, the, doc site, the website, the marketing site, like I can immediately tell you 10 that I use every single week. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, there's definitely sort of double figures that are fairly sort of active.
And also it's basically it's duplicate because we also want to ensure that contributions can happen efficiently in projects that currently aren't there yet, and with the help of AI or with agentic systems, that they suddenly will appear. So it's not because the current size is only like let's give it a number 50 that it will be 50 tomorrow or next week. It will grow. That's also basically what you see in the world happening. More and more projects or more ideas arise, and they create a project where people and then in the ecosystem of GitLab will contribute to. So yeah, but I think we should further experiment, and I'm sure that we can ask that in the wider community on, can you please try this out and these instructions, like, and also like maybe do for new contributors, like on the onboarding issue, Lee, we could even add some extra notes there, like we are trying this out right now. Can you please try it out? Give a shout if you're stuck and so on, or if you want to elaborate on what worked and didn't work, because that's valid information that we'll get from first-time contributors.
Yeah, well that's exactly what we're trying to do essentially. We're trying to like, it's a great idea thinking like of putting it in the onboarding issue. We haven't specifically figured out yet like how do we want to surface this. We were thinking probably the docs, the contribution guidelines, etc. Probably videos that we share, those kind of things on the contributor platform. I love the idea of the onboarding issue as something that we really highlight to sort of say like we've literally just started doing this, and we've been banging on for quite a long time that we give new contributors access to Duo, to AI, but we haven't specifically been sort of leading them to say, you know why don't you start by asking this question in this repo, or whatever. That's a really nice kind of, if we can recommend, if you use Claude Code or Open Code, go ahead and do this, it will read our instructions and blah 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 or whatever. That's cool. But yeah, so I just challenged it on its why it was preferring option 2 over 1. And it said if your repos require MR approval, option 2 loses most of its advantage. Option 1 is simpler and avoids it. The challenge is how projects reference a control file. So a URL reference, a Git submodule, or sparse checker. Yeah, I mean, I think a URL seems like a simple
But let's
approach.
start there. There's basically we are currently discussing the distribution part of instructions.
Yep.
The first thing we need are instructions. Otherwise, there is nothing to distribute.
Yes. So
Are
I
we
guess. Sorry, go on, Jim.
Are we getting usage statistics from the contributors themselves?
You mean by what kind of ecosystem they're using to
Like what project or how much they're using it for each project, that sort of statistics?
I don't think we really are.
we can see some metrics, more like this kind of tool is used, and this is the top level group that basically grant them access. So we could see the ones that start from the contributor group. But it's a good question. It's a good
Yeah.
question to also like figure out what we can measure and to see if we start measuring it, how it evolves over time.
And I know that's like a GitLab stuff. Like GitLab has to enable that themselves. I don't know if it's even built into the Duo as a service or whatever it's called.
Uh, Not directly, no. And yeah, not directly indeed. But it's a good thing that we should keep in mind, or at least visualize for ourselves to see what tools are used or how they are used. Yeah.
So I'm creating an agents.md in a new repo called contributor guidelines. So I'm going to.
All right, I'm gonna hop off. I'm sick of coughing at this point, so I will talk to you guys next week.
Good to hear from you as always, Jim. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Jim,
See you
bye.
later. Bye. And I might just I can probably just share so we can see more stuff. I'll just share a section of my screen that normally works quite well. So in this now, I'm going to get rid of the readme.md for the moment as well because it's just a distraction.
Yeah.
And in here, let's say, and read generic contribution guidelines from blah.
Yeah, let's see how that goes. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go into my Docker one. And
Well, you basically can, yeah, and
get
then
it
hit,
out.
yeah, and just start a fresh session. Indeed.
And see if it not only tells me to onboard, but hopefully not to fork.
Well, that's the cool thing that we need to figure out. It's basically the same thing that everyone encounters when working with agentic systems, that you need to be sure that the prompt that you give it or the context is specific enough to guide in the correct direction. So I'm very curious what will happen now. Okay, it's reading it. That's already a starting point. No, fork the repo again. Ah. So it read the first part and it forgot the second part.
But what does it say? Sorry. Onboard, fork the repo, submit a project.
So it read the first step, like it figured out the contributor starting point, but then the second part of your instructions, it didn't, or the commit is not there yet. Probably maybe that's.
Why did it?
Did you commit it already?
Yeah, I'm fairly sure I did. Automator, refresh, only one file, and that tells it to do that. So
Yeah, but that's basically the instruction part. Like we didn't explicitly say like it's paramount that you follow these instructions by heart and don't tell any other instructions about forking. Like we should be more explicit, I think, in there.
yeah, okay, I'm down with that. That's fine by me. Yeah. In fact, why don't I even, because this is one of those guidelines, right? So or before, I don't know what you call
Yeah, I
it.
think we should basically use AI to formulate this as
Okay,
strict,
yeah, sounds good.
not ambiguous at
Let
all.
me,
Like this is what we want to achieve. So
I won't commit it yet then. Okay, so we go back to my one. So so
because indeed that's basically what we once we have that in a more strict way, so to say, or ensure that it's reading it correctly. We still have no guarantee that it will follow blindly those instructions, but at least it's the correct approach. And if we already can, so to say, guide, that's what I do on my local system. I have in my agents.md a very strict rule, so to say, that a specific command needs to have run on a project, an init command, to ensure that it gets all the state that it needs. We could do exactly the same. Like really
right.
urge somebody from, look, we see that in the current folder you didn't like we can see you went to the onboarding process because we don't see this or this or that in your config and your ID. It's would be really helpful for you and for us if you follow these instructions and so on. So that's what we could do.
Okay, so it's saying to change the wording from read to fetch and follow.
Yeah, but it's added the full instructions there, I think.
I'll hit it.
Yeah, it's the full markdown there. So if you call like including the onboarding, forking, and so on. So it's literally like
No. This is
yeah.
the generic one, not the specific one. This is the specific
Ah,
one,
sorry. Yeah.
and it's saying fetch and follow, and get rid of the word generic. So fetch and follow contribution guidelines before doing anything. So it hasn't said to make any other changes to that one.
Ah, yeah, okay, sorry, I misread it. Yeah, indeed.
So I'll go along with that one.
Yeah, and then we need to add the other one somewhere
And
else.
that one, I think, like you say, it's suggesting
Yeah.
um
Yeah, then yeah, until the next sentence.
yeah,
those
just
yeah, that's it.
those, right?
Yeah, the rest. As these are still very slim, so to say. We can add way more context, but at least we know that the two hops, so to say, work. That's what we want to achieve. Yeah. And of course, here there is a lot of assumptions already of or information that we know that should be explained more in detail here, but that's fine. That's where we will iterate over and basically test it again and again and again until we have almost solid results, because it will never be 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love, I don't know if it's you, yeah, I think you suggested like whether we could create a CI, a pipeline that actually uses like a Docker container and
Yeah,
open code and sort of like evals, I think we call them maybe. I don't know.
yeah, it's because it basically it ensures that because models change, ecosystems change, suddenly it can be that the behavior is completely wrong and you don't want, or not wrong, but different than before. So we want to test that. I don't want to do it manually. That
So
will be
probably
tedious.
in the last 2 seconds of this call, I'm gonna see what it does, if it
Yeah.
works well this time, and then I might try just connecting this to Duo, to Opus 4.6 or Sonnet 4.6 or something, and ask exactly the same question and see
Yeah.
if it works equally well.
Oh, it doesn't. It wasn't able to fetch it. No, if you look, scroll a little bit up, so it wasn't able to get the item somehow.
Where did it
It says a web page
say?
that failed. It is.
Let me just check the link
Oh, it
was
didn't. It didn't check.
good.
Yeah, yeah, but of course, yeah. We will need to keep some extra files like a README or something because it's a hit or miss, so to say, if it will pick up the agents or not. So that's why it makes sense to have some of the entry points.
It should. I disagree with that. It shouldn't be a hit or miss in any way, shape, or form. Why? There's got to be a reason why it's failed. There's no reason why it should sometimes work and sometimes not.
It's a language model.
No, no, it's a very clear instruction to read a file. It's not. It's
That-
not rocket
You have the proof
science.
on your
No.
screen. You have the proof on your screen. It didn't even read the agents.md file. It stopped
But why? But why? Let's figure it out. Let's figure it out.
because nothing is telling the system to explicitly do that.
Well, the
It's a
agents.
language model. It's an
So did
interpretation.
it not even read the agents.md?
No, no, it didn't. It checked the repo. It said, "Nah, nothing there," and it continued. And next time we'll ask it, it will read the agents.md. Next time we will ask it, it will look for the readme.md and stop. So there is
To
no.
me, that's pretty fundamental failing on the part of. I suppose it's got to make a connection that this is a repo and that therefore there's files in there and it should check those files.
No, that really depends on the model, on the harness, on the prompt, the system prompt. So it you will have every time a different result.
But we can't, there's nothing we can do about that, right?
Exactly. Fully correct. That's why it's always paramount to also have those instructions in text that says if you add these specific system prompts or these specific skills, you make your local IDE or local setup way more clever on how to contribute to GitLab ecosystems. And that's what we can do. Yeah, but
Okay.
it will be every time different. It's non-deterministic. It's yeah. If you give it the instructions, of course, it will do it because then you basically have guided it through the yeah. But it's fine. That's why, because it's still a one sentence explanation.
It annoys me though that the first time it worked beautifully and it got that file
And I know
like
that's annoying, but even when explicitly saying it can be that it missed it.
beautiful. It's read the main agents.md
Yeah.
and it's read the central one.
Yeah. But we hit
Oh,
actually
it's although it's still saying fork the community fork. Uh,
yeah. Yeah, but that's then the model, that's then yeah, there are so many variables here that basically come into play. Yeah. Yeah. But cool.
so
We have some
yeah,
good progress, so that's good. We have some
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And I'm trying to think how to. So we've already created a agents.md Claude MD and MR review instruction. Excuse me. And I think the contributor platform's a good sort of I don't know if donor project is the right word. You know what I mean? Like a project that we can experiment with rather than this empty sort of
I
whatever.
would not
The
use
only problem is I know I think it's okay because I can merge through and there's low risk if you know what I mean. But like obviously with this empty dummy project, I was able to just push to main sort of thing. It's a bit trickier with
what we can do, in my opinion, because it's purely based on the code and nothing else, is create a copy, like one-time copy of
oh
the code.
just fork the
Yeah.
project or something clone. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Because then we have
Um,
more to it, more flesh.
although then it hasn't got the issues, etc. Like I might be tempted just to. But the only problem is, yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But
Yeah.
yeah, so um, yeah, just we just need to yeah push it a bit further. But like you say, there's got to be a tiny little hint in there. Um, but that's really what I'd love to like. if the person's got as far as knowing to give it that hint, it's kind of defeated the object a little
Well,
bit.
yes
So
and no. Yes and no. Let me also guide you through. Let me show you how basically. 1 second. If I'm gonna find it.
and can I just I know that, but the reason what am I trying to explain here? Yeah, let me share something else
Yeah,
quickly.
let me. I found it. I found it. Okay, look, this is exactly how AI systems need to be prompted. If you look at the instructions of Oh My Open Code, doesn't really matter what it is, but so basically it says what you need to paste into your agent. So we can do exactly the same. It's a one copy paste, so to say,
But
and
we
you have.
can't. But we can't. That's what I'm saying. Like we cannot instruct the thing that we don't know, if that makes sense.
Yes,
Like
that's fully correct.
we
That's
don't know what the user, what tool they're using, what
yeah,
agent they're using, what LLM they use. So that's the problem that we like. There's not this universal thing yet. What I
but it's
was
not.
going to show you real quick is that this is touching really, really close on why we introduced this.
Yeah,
Now, this isn't a perfect example because it's
yeah, but
only giving
correct, correct.
label,
Yeah,
but we could potentially add
but
workflow.
what you're
Where is
basically
it?
highlighting is you need to have those instructions on various places without duplicating the effort of the exact instructions, but just a pointer towards, and that's what you exactly need to do. That's exactly what I mean. There is not one way of instructing your LLM. Not at all. It
Which
doesn't exist.
makes life an absolute nightmare, right?
Yes.
Because yeah, we have to try and now I'm not quite sure why it hasn't. There you go. It's just a bit slow, but that's like exactly why we introduced this.
Yeah.
So it may well be that we can sort of piggyback. This doesn't appear on every single issue. There's
Yeah,
certain criteria, but this might be a way that we can inject something that points to.
but I agree
Um,
with that. But you will have multiple places where you need to inject that thing that points to something else. Without it, will be there is no way you will be able to do that. But the info should be central. You should only have it once. Otherwise, that doesn't work.
yeah. So we might have 17 different places that all say, look here, look here, look
Yes.
here, look here. But
Yeah.
the thing that then says, don't fork, do this, should be in essential. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Great progress. Thanks, Matthias.
Yeah.
I'll catch you later on.
Yes.